I've known Tracy Dildy for a long time. Knew him as a player when he was at UIC, and then certainly as a coach and what he's done at Chicago State. And he's got a team now that's got experience. He's got a team that's deep at every position. He's got an outstanding defensive team, and judging by the way that they got so many steals, and you can see the deflections when you watch them on film. And this is going to be, they are a tremendous trapping, trap of the ball screen, trap in the backcourt, full court pressure, half court trapping, switching. I mean, they're going to create some havoc for us. And it's a great opener for us because it gives our guys a chance to go against what I think is certainly one of the more experienced and older teams that we're going to see, and a team that's going to put tremendous pressure on them defensively and is going to put tremendous pressure on the rim offensively by the way that they drive and by the way that they run in transition. And so they're coming off a very good finish to their season. They've got a lot of guys back. Certainly Quentin Pippen does a lot of different things. Matt Ross is a outstanding forward, inside, outside type of player. I like their guards. So we're excited for the game, and it's going to be very interesting, to put it mildly, to see how a very inexperienced team deals with that kind of pressure inside of this game. So we're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to a great crowd. And we've had 2 solid days of practice. I wouldn't characterize them as unbelievable days, but they've been pretty good. We've had to get a lot of things cleaned up and some things put in, and now we get ready for the pressure that we're going to see. So it's here, and we're excited to play.
I know nobody's ever completely comfortable with where their team is to open the season, but how close to that are you?
I don't think like that now. Now, if I was to answer that question, I'd say not at all. But I can't think like that either. I mean, that's a negative connotation, and I don't want to be like that. I mean, we got a lot of games coming up in a short period of time. It's going to be great for this team to have to deal with that. We're going to see a lot of different styles of basketball. Tomorrow, the pressure will be that they're capable of putting on is enormous. So we're going to find out what kind of instincts we have. We can't come down and turn the ball over. I mean, this team will turn it into easy baskets. It's not like you come down and say, okay, we're going to go from A to B to C, and if A doesn't work, we'll go right to B, and if B's not there, we'll go right to C. You might go from A to F to C to D, then back to B. I mean, when you're going against a pressure team, you have to play basketball. So it's going to be very good for us to have to do that. But I don't have a lot to gauge this type of inexperience on, so I don't really spend much time trying to figure that part of it out. There's certain standards we want to see them at. I think what we're going to find out is how deep a team we have. I think I've said it all along. I think to look at this team and say, well, they're going to have this starting lineup for this period of time, or this could be the starting lineup for the year, I don't see that. I don't see that at all. I'm certainly not coaching it that way. And right now, it's time to be efficient. You know, there'll be a certain level of patience and perspective with a young team, but we've got to be efficient. And I thought the other night we did some really, really good things, but I thought our level of intensity dropped when we got up, and that can't happen. That cannot happen. Whether it's mental conditioning, whether it's not playing with the lead, there are so many things this team is going to have to deal with that they have no idea on. And so you just try to get better every day as much as you can from it, and learn from the experiences. And now we'll finally start to get some of those.
How big is the challenge for this team in terms of getting out in transition, running the way you wanted to, but not, and Yogi talked about this, I guess, playing too fast in the face of a team that wants to pressure you so much?
Oh, I think you're either a press break team or a press attack team. And we've always tried to be a press attack team. But I think the key is that you can't give up. This team, with where they were at with over 9.5 steals a game last year, and the length that they play with. I mean, they look, I've not seen them in person, obviously, until tomorrow night, but watching them on film, they look very long and very aggressive. So you've got to make sure that you're staying true to the fundamentals of getting the ball to the middle, getting it reversed, making the simple plays. I won't go back to the baseball analogy. I'm sure I'll use that 1,000 more times this year. I'll spare you that today. But I mean, those are the type of things that you've got to have in a game like this. You want to get as many easy baskets as you can, and you want to eliminate easy baskets for them. So taking care of the ball for us, making sure that they face 5 defenders, getting to the offensive glass, those are the kind of things that are key. The live ball turnovers are what really, really hurt a team. And the live ball, meaning you've passed it, they've grabbed it, they're gone, and you're going to have a hard time getting back. You know, the unforced turnovers, the ball goes out of bounds, you can get back and set your defense. But live ball turnovers against pressing teams are a recipe for disaster. We can't have those.
What do they do press-wise? You know, what is
They mix it up. There's a zone pressure that's 1-2-1-1. There's a 2-2-1 press, and I think as scary as any of that is the way they'll trap out of their zone and the way they trap the ball screens. And this team is they're gonna force the tempo defensively, and it'll be very good for us to have to deal with that. You know, will we trust, you know, the dribble splits? Will we make the next pass? Will we take on the trapper? Will we slip screens? All those different things that go into dealing with that. Will we get the ball reversed? Will we put the ball over our head? Will we panic when the pressure comes? Will we get pushed to the sideline or the baseline where there's built-in defenders there? Those are the kind of things they're really good at. They're good at angling you to those places. Example with the 1-2-1-1 press, some teams will have just, if they can turn their head, okay, and see the trap. Some, it doesn't matter where it's at. It could be 15, 16, 17 feet away from the end line, and they're going to go trap it. That's that type of team. They're going to go get the first pass, and they do an excellent job of taking that return pass away. So you've got to stay true to your principles on it, and we haven't been pressed in games, so it'll be different for us.
What's your evaluation on Jeremy after the 2 exhibition games? And what do you want to see from him so that he can make that jump you've talked about freshman year?
Well, he's just got to be consistent. I thought he did a pretty good job there. I thought there was a good move from game 1 to game 2. And we're asking him to do a lot. We're asking him to take the ball out of bounds, and he comes back in the game. We're asking him to get their inbounds pass. So that's not easy. That's going to take some time for that to happen. And I have no doubt that he has the basketball instincts and intelligence to do that, but now it's just the experience and understanding of doing that, which is going to be important. And what he's got to be is in constant movement. He's got to be an energy source. He's got to rebound the ball better. So if I had to look at one thing that I don't think he's doing as good a job of, I would say it's the rebounding, and we really need that from him no matter what position he's in. And because there's certain lineups that we have right now that are not very good at rebounding the ball. And there really shouldn't be a lineup we put out there that's not good at rebounding the ball. So that's all part of the uptick that we've got to be on, and why I think there's so much upside to the team. But defensively, he's got to be a guy that can do really whatever you want. Is he going to guard the ball? Is he going to switch onto the ball? Can he trap? Numerous things. Can it be very good on the ball side? Can it be very good on the weak side? Those are all things that, with some experience from last year, that he's got to be ahead of the curve on for us.
You talked about Coach Doty, knowing him. How did you guys come in contact way back when you were assistant?
Oh no, he was at UIC. I was at Michigan State one year coaching. We played against him. It was Western Kentucky. I don't remember. He was a very good player. He was an excellent player for a guard. And then he got his start just coming up the line through UIC, and then he was at DePaul when I was at Marquette, and it's been different places. But I've always had a lot of respect for Trace. I mean, he's just a formidable foe when it comes to recruiting, and what I like is he's really got a team that he can really be proud of, a team that he's been able to build up now, and a team that's pretty strong and solid. So I've always respected him.
He said, I talked to him a little bit yesterday, he said that when you guys were assistants at that time, it was kind of commonplace that, you know, you might talk to each other about who you were recruiting, and maybe if there was a guy that wouldn't fit in your program, you'd tell him, hey, I saw this guy, you should go check him out and stuff like that.
Well, I think, yeah, and I've always respected him. He's a basketball guy. I mean, he's a guy that, he was really a good player. So you know he knows what a player looks like, because he knew what it was like to feel like one. And he was a tremendous guard. I got to believe he's still high up in the record books and things at UIC. So to me, you know, when you come in contact with people a lot of times, and even when they're opponents or they're rivals, if you really have that respect for them, it's a lot easier to talk to them and compare notes, because you know what they're looking for. And I've always seen him as a straightforward, call it like it is, have a really good evaluation sense. And I think that the same thing's happening when you watch him coach his team.
This is more, well, do you have a question?
No, well, I think mine was probably going to be a little bit offbeat as well.
Yeah,
But the Champions Classic, I guess they announced that's coming to Indianapolis next year. I know you guys have done obviously the Crossroads Classic, also the game against Gonzaga at Lucas Oil. I mean, is that kind of event something, I know the Crossroads Classic is kind of the immediate future, but is that kind of event something that you would be interested in long-term, getting the program involved in?
Oh, if something like that happened, but I would think those 4 teams are going to stay inside of that. And I wish I could get a ticket to something like that. I think it'll be good, but more importantly, I think it's great. I look at it, I don't look at it as it affects us, I look at it that it really affects the Indianapolis economy. And I think that's really good. I mean, anytime you're bringing that kind of money and those kind of fans into it, you know, let's watch the hotels and the restaurants and all those places just absolutely have a great couple of days. You know, like they would when the Big Ten tournament would be there, or certainly, you know, when you have the regionals or the Final Four. But we're always looking for what's best for us. But the Crossroads Classic does that's a big deal in the state of Indiana, and that's going to carry the flag, so to speak, when it would come to some neutral type of games that we might be able to be in. And we always want to have the exempt tournaments. I know we're in the Jimmy B Classic next year, and so we're certainly going to try to do certain things in a one-game situation that will take us to great places for Indiana, for our alums, for recruiting, and we take everything as it comes and see if it works out for us. But so much of it is dictated by TV dates, and you have to play that part into it. And the Crossroads really fits a strong TV component, or a strong date component that maybe some of the other networks would want that time for their things, and we can't move from there because those dates are locked in with the Crossroads. But if something comes about that would really make sense for Indiana, we jump on it. But I couldn't see any of those 4 teams giving that tournament up as long as ESPN and State Farm or whoever's putting it together wants it.
How much, I guess, to follow, if you don't mind to follow up real fast, you mentioned just, I guess, how much does Indianapolis, being a city that hosts things like that, you talked about the regionals, the Final Four, the Big Ten tournament, does that have a filter down impact on this program? I mean, just since you've been here?
No, I don't know about that. I think, I don't know about that. I think it does when we're there. But I mean, I just think it's great for the economy. Anytime you're bringing in those kind of, and that may not be the right answer, but it's my answer. And it's a basketball haven. I mean, the city of Indianapolis, the state of Indiana. So it's an attractive place. And I don't get too worked up about, well, it's going to hurt our recruiting, is it going to that? No, I mean, that doesn't, there's so many things that factor into recruiting, that's really not one of them. And if it is, it's way down the list. But we've got to continue to always do what's right for Indiana University and for the program. And so you look at everything as close as you possibly can to see if it makes sense, and if it makes sense, can you make it work? And there's a lot of things that come here that don't make any sense for us. But those things I think are really good for the city, for the state, and to me, the biggest boon is what it does for the economy.
You've mentioned in the past about how social media, whether it be Twitter or even just texting, and that has changed communication between players on the floor. Could you just talk a little bit about
What do you mean?
that idea? Well, you brought it up. I mean, you've said that communication on the court, players maybe don't get to colleges as knowing how to do that as well as maybe they once did.
Oh, you mean with communication on the floor?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about individual players.
No.
Oh, I think it's, there's no question it's an epidemic problem. I mean, but it's a problem for every parent. It's a problem for every teacher. It's a problem for every employer. I mean, you have to build verbal communication more and more inside of your unit, and you have to literally fight for it. I mean, you have to put players and people in situations where you have to be demanding of that. I mean, it's always been one of the hardest things for any team to do. And there's no question, I don't care who it is, it's getting harder because there's so much time they don't have to. And I'll see coaches complain, well, he didn't text me back, and he didn't call me back, or he didn't take a call. I don't get too worried about that either, unless they're doing it all the time, with somebody else. Well, then you pretty much got your answer. It's not you. But I mean, when you get here, now that would never fly here. That would never fly in the sense of we're not going to return a call, or we're not going to return a text to a coach or to Marnie Mooney or somebody like that. Well, it's the same thing on the floor. It's a great example. You can't accept guys, I mean, there's no iPhones at timeouts, okay? You have to talk to each other. You have to talk to each other on the fly, and we keep trying to get them to understand that defense is about exclamation points, and offense is about bullet points. You know, offense is sentences, and defense is like 1 or 2 word commands, and you've got to have that. But I think what's happening is players are figuring out that it's, and I know I've said this too, it's really, really hard to think you're going to not talk on defense and have it work out better for you on offense. You have to talk on both ends of the floor. And to me, it's just something that it's constantly ongoing. And the players always think they're talking better than what the coaches think, and the coaches always think they're talking worse. But you're always trying to err on the side of making sure that there's no stone left unturned. And so that's always a push.
As someone who's been coaching since smartphones and all that and social media came in, did you see a change in that?
I don't know if you see it on the floor as much as you see it in the just the environments. I mean, a bus can get real quiet, and anytime a former player would come back, whether it was a pro or non-pro, they always talked about the off-the-court stuff. They talked about the bus rides, the sitting in the airports, the sitting in the hotels. You know, those are the things that they remember so much. So you have to have some safeguards in there. You have to push them to do it. You have to understand it's here to stay, but at the same time, you can't. I think a lot of times people, it's like body language. You know, body language is getting harder and harder and harder for somebody to understand when it's not good. And we don't have 15 cameras to put out there and put on each individual guy. Plus, we don't have that kind of time to do that. But you want players to get to a point. Anytime I've showed players their bad body language, or where they're dropping their head, or they're getting disappointed, and not being able to move on from it, they're shocked that it's happening. And so that's kind of where lack of communication is, and where nonverbal communication's at right now. Nobody really thinks they're that quiet, but they are. And you have to be willing to address it constantly to try to make it better.
Do you have rules on it or anything?
As far as what?
As far as use of smartphones or things like that?
Yeah, don't say anything ridiculous. Don't say anything that's going to come back to get you, and it's going to come back to hurt us. Do I have rules? I don't have a ton of rules on that, but they're not going to be on. I think there's always somebody that's going to remind them. You know, have those things off when we're in meetings. You know, put them on silent. I don't want to hear it vibrate. You know, those type of things. And so there's always going to be accidents, and there's always going to be guys that you have to make sure that they understand that a little bit better. But they pretty much figure that out. So I don't put a lot of time into that.
Coach, can you talk about Hunter Pereira's play on Monday, and if that translated into the week of practice as well?
Well, it's been translating it longer than that. And I think if you go back to the first exhibition game, he played pretty well. So he's really doing a good job. He's slowing down. He's getting more comfortable. He's getting more aggressive defensively. He's in better shape, so he's running the court that much better. His footwork, I said this earlier, I mean, it's some of the most improved footwork work from one year to the next that I've ever been a part of, because he's really bought into it. And it's the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, and now he's having success with it, you know, much like anybody else that does it. It's hard to make guys better shooters. I mean, you've got to be willing to outlast their bad habits a lot of times. But it's one of the things this program's built on, is not looking at a player and saying, well, you know, they're at this level and they won't be able to get past that. All we got to do is point out the percentages the last couple of years. I know guys have improved, and I think Hunter's heading down that same road. I love his upside, love his attitude.
Anything else?
Dustin, you have something?
No.
I thought you did.
Well, you know what?
I thought you got it.
Non-racial, but Bill, come to think of it, what's your thoughts been on Stan so far? Just the way he's played.
Well, I just said to him, as far as we're having this conversation about quietness, I mean, today he was on we broke the teams up, and he had a lot more responsibility on the white team, and the team didn't do well. And it wasn't that he didn't play okay, but he didn't take anybody with him. And I think that it's the communication part. You really don't get great unless you have strong leadership, unless you have strong verbal skills. And I mean, it doesn't matter if you can sing a song or give a speech. You've got to bring those verbal skills to the court. And if you can't be demanding of your teammates. And we're really trying to help him right now get to a point where he breaks, you know, putting his hands in the body. You saw some of that the other night. I think you saw a tale of two officiated games a little bit. We had 12 personal fouls in the first exhibition game. We had quite a few more the other night. Seemed to me, I mean, and we're a week better at moving our feet. But I mean, you put those hands in there at all, I mean, it can be called. And so we're trying to break those things constantly, and he's trying to do the same thing. I think he's gotten better. He's relatively fresh, but at the same time, he's missed a lot of time, and so it's going to take a while for him to get more comfortable. But I think his upside is really, really high, and I think he's one of our downhill players. And I think he just got an uncanny sense of how to get to the basket and find people, and now he's just got to do more verbally and do more on the defensive end.
Sorry, just really quickly. Will, I guess, is there anything lingering from him
No,
having to
no,
sit
he's
up
been
and-
fine. He's practiced well. No, he's been fine. So he's, couldn't tell any difference with him. Sometimes Will thinks he's a little bit older than he really is. He's young, and he's got some of the greatest quick twitch I've ever seen. Sometimes you have to remind him of that, but he's doing fine. Okay.
Appreciate it.